Ladies and gentlemen, a cultural show this week, I rather feel, from, of course, me, James Whale. Hello, welcome to the programme. Here we are back, of course, in the ether with the James Whale radio show. Available, of course, all over the place, whether you're listening to us on radio, online, on your mobile phone, your tablet, your laptop. Oh, gosh, I don't know. Where else can you listen to us?
In the bath.
Oh, yeah, you could listen in the bath as well. Just don't drop the phone or the laptop in the bath. Otherwise, you'll regret it. Welcome to the programme. And all those people who've seen our little bits and pieces on Periscope, nice to have you with us as well. Right here, jameswhaleradio.co.uk, brought to you by a myriad of people, including Ford, of course, and the fabulous new Ford Focus. So, shall we start this extravaganza off?
Yeah, what would you like to talk about first?
No idea, really. What do you want to talk about? Anything you've got on your mind? Anything I can help you out with?
No, nothing I want to talk about. Well, I've got a couple of things in Tech Talk a bit later.
Oh, good, good. This is Rob, the Job producer. Did you listen? We're going to start a new feature, I think, on this week's program, and we're going to feature a podcast, somebody else's podcast, that we're going to run up on the program, and you can go and hear it on our website. Have we got one for this week or not?
No.
No, when I expressly told you to do that and you ignored me yet again.
So what we're asking is anyone who's got a podcast or a show that they do and they want us to promote it a little bit, send it in. Is that right?
Yeah. No, they can flipping well pay for us to put it on.
Oh, right. So it's an advert for their... Okay, right. That makes more... I'll do it now then if there's money involved.
For goodness sake, honestly, I'm banging my head against the wall the whole time.
Have you got a dent in the wall?
No. I've got very hard walls. Very hard walls indeed. Let's start off. Let's talk about Russell Brand interviewing Ed Miliband this week. I thought that was quite entertaining. I thought we should have more comedians interviewing politicians. Who do you think? Who should we get interviewing who? That's the question.
Well, they're all comedians, aren't they? Can't they interview each other?
What, politicians and comedians? Is there any difference? You know, that's not a bad point, actually. Not a bad point. We put the question out on our Facebook page. Andy Myers says, "Is Russell Brand a comedian?"
He says he is.
Yeah, you know, he's a multi-millionaire and he's just doing what he does, isn't he? I mean, it's great. I love all these really wealthy people who go out of their way to tell you how you should live and how everybody should be equal. And if Russell Brand really felt that, why isn't he dishing his money out? Why hasn't he sent me a few bob?
I think he does do a little bit, yeah.
Does he?
I think so, yeah.
It's, you know, it's nice if you're really well off, you've not got any debts like most of us, and you can sit back and pontificate about, I don't think you should vote. There's no point in voting. You know, revolution. That's what I believe in. And you just get a bit annoyed, don't you?
So if nobody votes and nobody wins the election, how's that a revolution?
Well, I don't know. What would happen? That's an interesting point. If none of us turn out on Thursday to vote, mind you, I think a few million people have already voted by post. So presumably it will go to that. But what hypothetically speaking, what would happen if nobody votes? I suppose the politicians would have to, and you know, the politicians, let's be honest about this. The politicians are you and me.
Yeah.
You know, everybody thinks, oh yeah, I wish I could be anybody. If you really wanted to be a politician, it's more difficult unless you feel strongly and politically motivated. And that's one of the problems of our political system in this country. If I was to pontificate a little bit, I don't know why I'm using pontificate so often, but it's a nice word. It must come from the Latin somewhere, mustn't it?
Everything comes from the Latin.
Does it really? Well, you learn something every day, don't you? So here we are. This is the thing. The problem with our political system is it's people who control the political system are people who have a view politically and join a political party. And I suppose you can't really do it any other way. We can't all go into a room and vote. There's 60-odd million of us. It wouldn't work. So we have to align ourselves with one side, like being in a tribe, I suppose, and then they get together and decide. But the chances are there will be no foregone conclusion after the election. What happens then? Maybe it will be a jolly good idea that you have a few people from each of the main 4 or 5 political parties who form a coalition government. Whether anything would get done or not, I'm not sure. But, you know, they said that about a coalition government, and there hasn't been a revolution during the last 5 years. Maybe a bigger coalition and more. I don't know. I really don't know. It'll be interesting to find out. But people who don't like it and say, oh, I'm not going to vote. Well, if you're not going to take part in the democratic system, and if we don't want the bloodshed of a revolution, I suggest people form another political party. And don't say it can't be done. I mean, look how SNP are sort of scooping up votes in Scotland. Look how UKIP suddenly emerged. The Greens are coming up. So it does happen. Political systems do change. And if you feel strongly, then you have to find a way of getting into politics yourself. If you feel you can represent people better, then maybe you should do it. Do I make any sense at all, or am I just sitting here talking?
I'm feeling it now. I'm feeling like I want to go and represent the people.
Well, you see, you could, you know, you could, when David Such, Screaming Lord Such, was alive, picture of him and me in my autobiography, by the way, on sale on the website. He actually was thought of as a bit of a lunatic. He was quite a serious chap. You know, we used to sit down and have reasonably serious conversations about politics. He actually did feel quite strongly about politics. And I think probably the monster raving loony party, not so much now, but when Screaming Lord Such was there, actually made more people interested in politics who wouldn't necessarily have been interested. And perhaps that is what Russell Brand is doing. Neil said he is calling on the country not to vote. That is everybody's choice to do with their votes as they wish. But if you don't vote, don't moan about the next lot of idiots in charge. And I think Neil's got a good point. You know, if you don't want to take part in the system, then either come up with a better system, a new system, or shut up. And who else we got here? Jason says, Russell Brand, oh, that's a bit rude, isn't it, really? He's not even funny as a comedian. Well, you see, some people love him, some people don't. I'm not really sure whether how many millions has he got watching his podcast?
Quite a lot.
9 million?
Yeah, a lot.
Yeah. But they're not necessarily all in this country, are they?
That's also true, yeah.
Yeah. Arthur Sutherland says I should stand myself. Do you know, Arthur, I tell you, just imagine if you can, that I became Prime Minister, or worse, Deputy Prime Minister. I'd be absolutely awful. I'd be passing rules left, right, and centre.
Left, right, and centre.
Yeah. Well, left, right, and centre, that would be all right, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
One day I'd come in and I'd have a bee in my bonnet about cyclists. I'd ban cyclists from the road. The next day I'd come in and it would be a capital offence to drop litter. Another day I'd come in and I'd have whims. You couldn't govern like that, could you?
I'm voting for you so far on those.
John Cooper says, I think more politicians should be comedians. And Jane Robbins, hello Jane, says, I think Bradley Walsh should give it a go. I'd like to see Bradley Walsh doing interviews with politicians, but also Paul Freeman says, what about the Chuckle Brothers?
I'm not sure that would work. They'd be arguing amongst each other all the time, wouldn't they?
No, I think it'd be very good. Or bring back Steve Nallen as Margaret Thatcher. Do you remember that?
What programme's that from?
Well, Steve Nallen used to be in Spitting Image, used to be the voice of Margaret Thatcher, but then he also used to dress up.
Have you seen the new Spitting Image?
No, I haven't seen it yet, I must admit. Is it funny?
It's getting there, I think.
It's not very satirical, is it, at the moment? Mind you, we're running up to an election, so it probably can't be.
Yeah, it's not as good as Spitting Image, but it's got potential.
Oh, good. I mean, did you see Car Share the other night? The comedy with I've forgotten his name now. Golly, what's his name? The comedian from flipping heck. He was in What's It Nights?
Phoenix Nights.
Phoenix Nights, yeah. What was his name? We were talking to
Peter Kay.
Peter Kay, yeah, that's it. Peter Kay's Car Share. Did you see it?
No. Was it any good?
I thought it was quite funny. Perhaps I need to see a couple more, but I thought it was funny. Yeah. So Ricky Gervais, he's another one. Jack D, he be good. So lots of you think that we should have comedians interviewing politicians. I don't think that would be a bad idea. Do you?
It would appeal to people more, I think.
Yeah. I think you're right. Okay, shall we take a break and remind people of all the great things they can get from jameswellradio.co.uk?
I'll press my button now. Would you like a free audiobook? Our friends at Audible are giving everybody a free audiobook just by going to the James Well Radio Show website, jameswellradio.co.uk. All you need to do is click on the Audible link, register, and you'll get your free audiobook. It's a bit like a book club, and remember, you can leave at any time and you still get to keep your free audiobook. So what are you waiting for? Just head over to the James Well Radio Show website, jameswellradio.co.uk, and click on that Audible link now.
Right, it's the James Well Radio Show. Good day to you. By the way, if you're a new listener to us right here on jameswellradio.co.uk, whether you're listening via your favourite radio station or online or via our friends at talentgb.com or Audio Boom, wherever you happen to be listening to us, tell your friends to join us. And if you want to listen to other past programmes, I think we have about 70 hours of me talking to various people from, we talked to Paddy McGuinness lately, haven't we? We've talked to all sorts of people when I think about it.
Yeah.
So maybe we could talk to somebody you'd like to hear on the program. All you have to do is email me, and it's very easy to email me. All you have to do is email James Whale Radio. Write this down, James Whale Radio at gmail.com, jameswellradio@gmail.com. And I think it's time we looked for some more unusual and maybe pseudo-psychic interviewees, don't you?
Yeah, I suppose they know that the phone call's coming then.
Well, yeah. You know, I've got on this new YouTube channel, I've got a program called it's on 5 at 5. Have you heard it yet? It started a few days ago, actually.
I saw some weird criminal crime thing.
Yeah, Weird World's Top 5.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll put that on the website. We'll put a link to it.
Certainly will.
Some of it's a bit gruesome, though. I watched the one I did the other day, and they're all up there, about Weird World 5's top 5 unsolved crimes.
I didn't like the foot one.
Yeah, what would you do if you were walking along a beach and you suddenly found a woman's foot? Nothing else, just a woman's foot.
Some people out there like that kind of thing, though.
Well, go and check it out at Weird World 5 at 5. And there's all sorts of other things there as well. Now let's get a little bit cultural, okay? Here's something unusual, something you won't hear very often. Now, when I was at school, if you wanted to pretend to be really knowledgeable about rock music or pop music or whatever at the time, you would tell everybody you were a fan of a band called King Crimson. Now, it's sort of progressive rock, I suppose, is what it is. And I was quite a fan. I've always liked all sorts of music, you know, you name it, and I probably liked it. Motown, rock, soul, heavy music, progressive music. I'm great. And King Crimson was interesting, quite unusual. It was a sort of, they reckoned it was a sort of a mashup. I've got a text coming in there. Do you think that's a text? What will that be?
Sounds like a bell.
It's a whenever I get a text, I get a little ding on my phone. It's just from a producer from another program. No problems. So anyway, listen, I think it's a mashup. I love that word, a mashup, or used to be, of classical and popular music. Well, I'm going to talk now to David Cross. David was in King Crimson back in the 70s. King Crimson's most famous member was probably Robert Fripp, the guitarist, and they've been collaborating on some new music. So let's get him on the program and have a chat.
Sitting in my room and I'm on my own. It's cold outside and I'm feeling alone. So I turn that dial and my radio's on. I hear James Well and my troubles are gone. I hear James Well on the radio. I hear James Well and his podcast show. I hear James Well on the radio. James Well and his podcast show. James Well on the radio.
Now let's talk to David Cross. David, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Great to be on the show.
Shall we talk King Crimson first?
Yeah, of course.
Because, you know, I'm old enough to remember King Crimson when I was much younger. And
it was a long time ago, yeah.
what was it, 40-odd years ago?
I guess so, yeah. 1972 to 1974 was my stint with the band.
All those of us who pretended we knew about music would always go to school with a King Crimson album, in our case.
Some of us who pretended we knew about music were in King Crimson, of course, as well.
It's a funny time, wasn't it? I mean, King Crimson were what, progressive rock? What would you call it?
Well, yeah, it's kind of all subsumed under the title of progressive rock now, isn't it? At the time, I would definitely have labelled it as rock music, and that's about as far as I would have gone, I think. And I think we could see ourselves aligned with fusion, jazz, as well as quite a wide range of pop music, really. That it was kind of much more open playing field. It's become it's become much more defined now than it was then, I think.
Do you wish you were starting out in the music business now?
I am. I am starting out in the music business now. I think you're always starting out. Every two you're only as good as your last record. You're only as good as your last performance. I'm performing now. I'm making albums now. So it's always a new and exciting experience.
Let me phrase that a slightly different way, David. Do you think starting out in the music business now is easier or more difficult than it used to be back in those days?
Oh, God knows. It's much more difficult, I think. I think for me now it's much easier because because at least some people know what I do, because I've been doing it for a long time. But I think for anybody trying to get into the music business now, it's a very discouraging time. I mean, it's very difficult to actually turn it into a business. For a start, because of downloads and the fact that everybody has access to the means of making music and distributing it, it's very, very hard. And I certainly wouldn't like to be, in that sense, starting out trying to build a career at this moment. No, I wouldn't.
Tell me how the name King Crimson came about.
Oh, well, that happened before my time, so I can't really help you with that. That was really Robert Fripp's, and he probably thought of the name, so that's beyond my ken. And I don't remember ever hearing the answer to that question, but I'm sure somebody must know it. But I'm sure Robert Fripp will have a much deeper answer to that, but he's not here today, unfortunately.
Well, let's talk about you. You play the violin
Yeah.
And I was trying to think of other people who played there were a couple of other rock musicians who played the violin back then, and I can't for the life of me remember them. I remember, of course, Dexy's Midnight Runners featured a violin, but that was long after your time.
Yeah, very good. There's some very good players. If I'm thinking of the same people, but I mean, on the main guy on the kind of jazz rock field was Jean-Luc Ponty at the time. He was French player who was excellent. Played with Frank Zappa. There was Jerry Goodman, American player, David LaFlamme, with a group called It's a Beautiful Day. So, there were lots of, we had Dave Swarbrick and Fairport Convention over here. There were some great players around, and who are, a lot of them still playing.
Do you play classical music as well as rock?
Not well, no. I had enough of a classical background to be able to. I'd already trained to be a music teacher, for instance, before I joined King Crimson, so I had enough of a background to be able to play, in kind of amateur orchestras and that kind of thing. But and it helped probably to be able to read music, and it helped to be able to know something about scales and keys and that kind of stuff. But no, I would never classify myself as a classical musician. I've got too much kind of interest in changing the sound of the violin, with effects and with electronics, to be a classical musician. I never practice just an acoustic violin anymore. I only use the electric violin. So I would do practice classical pieces because they're good for my technique, but I always use my electric violin to do it now.
Far be it from me to mention X Factor or Britain's Got Talent or anything else, but there have been a number of solo electric violinists, usually ladies, in fact always ladies, I think. The electric violin's becoming quite fashionable, isn't it?
There are more around. I mean, I think the instruments are more attractive perhaps than they used to be. People have been making them look a bit better, and the sound has got a lot better. I mean, it was very difficult to play at the time I was starting out. You would be starting with an acoustic instrument, and I remember doing all sorts of experiments. I remember stuffing it with some fiberglass substance so it wouldn't feed back. And we were always looking for new pickups, new ways of trying to get the sound to work. So the technology's come forwards a lot. We don't have any of those problems anymore. It's much more easy to use. It's like an electric guitar now. Hopefully that's encouraging people to take it up and try and create their own sound. I think it looks cool, electric violin.
Did you ever think that you'd still be doing it all these years on?
Yeah, actually. Yes, I think I did. I think I knew it was a kind of lifetime commitment. Somewhere in my 20s, I think I realised that it was something I had to do. I mean, I've tried not doing it. I mean, shortly after King Crimson, I remember treading on my violin, not on purpose, but it was one of those kind of Freudian accidents, that never quite is an accident. I managed to break the neck off this violin and accidentally, and and it took a long time to get it fixed, and I sort of stopped practicing, and I thought, maybe it's time to stop this, and I should go and find something more productive to do with my life. But it called back to me. It kept calling to me, and I started working on it again. And actually, I love practicing now in a way that I didn't when I was younger. So I think I always, apart from that little blip in my 20s, I think I always thought I would be playing if I could.
You played with a lot of other people apart from King Crimson. Who apart from them were your favourites?
Most of the people I played with have been kind of under the not particularly popular, not particularly well known. But I've done a lot of work. I worked with a bebop group for a while, trying to learn to play jazz. I mean, the most exciting thing I've done recently has been this trip to Japan with the Stickmen, because I'd never met any of them before. I met them at the airport. We all arrived in Osaka airport within 10 minutes of each other, and next evening we were on stage. We didn't even get a rehearsal, just had a sound check, and we were playing material together. I mean, that's the other wonderful thing about technology, is you can prepare stuff without having to spend hours together in a rehearsal room.
There seems to be an enormous amount of British music going over there.
Yeah, there's all sorts of things going on in Japan, and of course they're exporting as well. And there's lots of Japanese music going around the world the other way. I always find when I played in Japan before, I found audiences always have been listening audiences. Very much. It's very attentive to the detail of what you're doing. But, now what I noticed this time was that starting to change. And certainly with Stickman, and they're really, really kind of enthusiastic as well, and quite, very excitable, and it's feeling much more like an American audience used to feel, which is always wants to get out and boogie and party and have a good time. So, I think things are changing there. But it is... Japan's one of those places where they always try and get the best out of everything. They kind of try and preserve the best of their food, their culture, at the same time, importing the best from around the world. So I think they're very keen, always been very keen to see what else is going on, and to make up their own minds about what's good and what's bad.
Tell us about. We're going to play Starless Starlight in a moment. Tell us about your latest CD, your latest piece of music. What's happening with it?
Right, well, this is it's coming out on the 4th of May on Noisy Records, and it's a collaboration between Robert Fripp, who's the guitarist and consistent member of King Crimson since it started. And we've done a couple of collaborations over the years. He played on an album I did called Exiles some years ago, and more recently he'd given me one of his soundscapes, which are these kind of semi-ambient pieces that he does on guitar to work on. But in 2006 he'd done these improvisations based on this theme from a tune called Starless that we used to play. And I approached him around that time to see if he had anything that I could work on. And he suggested these two little pieces, and they're brilliant. I listened to them; they were lovely, and I really wanted to try and make more out of them. So it's all based on a little tune, which was the beginning of a song called Starless by King Crimson, which I played on stage in 1974. But then when it was actually recorded as a studio track, I'd left the band. It came out on an album called Red, and I wasn't playing on it. And I think that kind of it's been a bit of unfinished business for me over the years, something that I wanted to rectify. So, I'd started playing the tune with my own band, the David Cross Band, when we'd done live gigs. And when I listened to these tracks and heard what Robert had done, I thought, well, actually, there's lots we can do with this if we just start with that little theme that starts this whole tune. So I just took a sort of something that's only really a few notes, lasts about half a minute, and I thought, well, what can I do with this? And I started experimenting with different ways of extending it, putting different accompaniments with it, improvising around it, and also working from these tracks. There's about 11 minutes, 12 minutes worth of music that Robert had provided. And before I knew where I was, I'd kind of built up, much more than an album's worth of material on these various experiments with this idea.
And it's called Starless Starlight, and presumably you'll be able to download it as well?
Yes, that's right. It should be up on iTunes soon. It's certainly available from Monday. From the record company website. Can I give you that?
Yeah, sure.
That's www.noisy.co.uk.
David, good to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed.
And you, Jen. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
So there we are. That was David Cross and Robert Fripp and Starless Starlight. Yeah, okay. Well, it might not get into the playlists, but it's available on iTunes, as David said, and it's something a little bit different on the musical horizon of life.
Well put.
Thank you, my son. Thank you very much indeed. Now, shall we do tech talk at this point?
Yeah, okay.
Because I always think it's a good idea to do tech talk. By the way, have you seen my new shoes? I've been putting them on Twitter, which are quite nice.
You're supposed to put them on your feet, not on Twitter.
No, I've got they're in fact, if you go, they're mountain climbing boots. I got from a little shop in Keswick, and in fact, we'll put a little something up for them. Akkus. Ooh. What? Is that you? You did that, didn't you?
No.
You flipping well did. You definitely did that.
I'm not sending you text messages. My phone's off. I'm a professional.
Are you sure? Yeah. Okay. That was just another ting saying, "Can I have a look at my emails?" I thought perhaps I'd won the lottery, but then I remembered I hadn't done it.
It does help to take part in the lottery to buy a ticket.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. Okay. Right. So. Never mind about my boots. I'll send you a picture. You can put them up on the website. They're shoes. They're just nice. They're red, blue, green, black, and yellow.
How many pairs have you got?
No, they're one pair, but they're red, green, blue, black, and yellow.
Okay. Sounds interesting.
They're very, very nice.
Can I do tech talk now?
Very, very nice.
Can I do?
Why don't you do tech talk?
Okay, I'll do tech talk now.
Have we got the jingle for that yet or not?
No, I can't afford the £3 fee it costs to make a jingle.
Well, I don't know where you're getting jingles for £3.50, but get one for next week's programme.
Okie dokie.
Tech talk, tech talk, tech talk.
You really built this bit up.
Can I finish this? Yeah. Tech talk, tech talk, tech talk. Brought to you by our producer, Robbo.
Can I start now?
I wish you would.
Okay. Let's talk about the Apple Watch.
Yeah, I haven't got one.
No. Apparently, if you've got tattoos on your arm, they don't work.
Why? Why would that happen?
Because all the sensors on the bottom of the watch can't see through all the ink and stuff.
Ah. Mind you, would the sort of person who was well tattooed actually wear an Apple Watch? Or is there a conspiracy here that the people at Apple don't really want those sort of guys with tattooed arms or ladies wearing their watches?
That is a good theory. But I've got a solution.
Go on.
If you like tattoos, tattoo the picture of an Apple Watch on your wrist.
Now that is a clever idea.
See? Full of ideas, me.
Yeah, very good indeed. I've not got my new my Apple iPhone. Yeah, and I have mentioned it at least 6 times on the programme.
It's 10, and you've got to do it in one programme, and you've got to do it randomly throughout the show.
Apple iPhone.
That's
6.
That's one. And the other thing I wanted to talk about is self-service. You know when you go to the checkout?
Random. Did you say randomly?
Yeah, randomly, yeah.
Apple iPhone 6.
That's, yeah.
2.
There is no iPhone 2. Right.
Isn't it?
No.
No, that's 2. Apple iPhone 6, 2 mentions. But now that's different because that's now Apple iPhone 6, 3 mentions.
Am I ever going to get through this tech talk bit? I don't know why I bother every week. Put so much research into this bit.
Come on, let's hear it.
Self-service. You know when you go to your big superstores and now you have to sort of put the stuff through the till yourself?
Yeah.
Well, apparently Morrison's have decided that people don't like that, so they're not doing that anymore. So that's a backward step for technology.
Well, I quite like that. I would disagree with that because I pop in sometimes on my way to do my breakfast show. I pop into a 24-hour supermarket just to get a bit of stuff for breakfast at about 4:30 in the morning. And there's never anybody on the tills at that time. So you learn how to do it. And it's quite easy. It is quite easy. if you have to go and pay at a checkout, more often than not during the day, there's a queue. And I don't mind so much the queue, I suppose, but I do object to when I get to the person in charge to being ignored. Now, some of the people on the tills are very good, very chatty, very nice. But some don't even bother to look up. So I think the bigger the stores get, the less personal they are. They're very impersonal places. So if it's a huge, one of these big out-of-town mega stores, you might as well have most do-it-yourself stuff, mightn't you?
Yeah, but it doesn't work, though. Every time you got a bottle of wine, you have to wait for some dude to come over and swipe the card through. A DVD, swipe the card through. Got a banana, you got to go through 5,000 menus to find the banana. Then you got to weigh the banana. Then you get a cookie, and it's like, well, what does the cookie come under? Oh, it comes under the bakery section. It's so complicated.
Oh, well, that's stupid. I mean, I just buy things that, you know, that you just scan through and take them away. Put your money in, get your change and go.
Well, that eliminates fruit.
Well, I wouldn't have thought you know much about fruit anyway.
Well, that's very true, actually. I don't know what I'm talking about, to be honest.
No, I don't. I just go in for a few buns.
Pardon?
A few buns and a couple of croissants.
Ah, see, croissants. That again. Croissants, shove them in a bag. Where's the barcode?
Buy them in the packet where there's a... Don't ever go and get anything that doesn't have a barcode on it. If you're going into the supermarket, make sure you get something with a barcode on it.
Right. So no fresh stuff then?
No. I think we've done enough tech talk now, haven't we?
Yeah, I don't think we did any tech talk, really, but yeah.
I think we did loads of tech talk. I thought that was probably verging on too much tech talk. Here we are. Here's something for you on a slightly more serious scale. Actually, it's quite a serious point. I shouldn't make light of it, really. Of course, as we know, the Indonesians have executed a number of people earlier on in the week, two of which were Australians, and they were executed by firing squad. Two things you could think about here. If you are going to bring back the death penalty, and I asked about this on Facebook and talked about it on a couple of radio shows this week, and there is a consensus of opinion by some people, usually older people, it has to be said, that they want to see the death penalty being brought back. Now, I can't think of one good reason to bring the death penalty back because I don't think it works. It's never worked anywhere else. But just so that you do know, I have had a little experience of this. Not many years ago, I did do an interview with, I think his name was Albert Pierpoint, who was the last hangman of in this country. He was the last guy to execute somebody in this country. And I interviewed him at his home, or near his home, in Blackpool. And it was for the show I did on television years ago called the James Whale Radio Show, but it was on TV. And we went up and made a film with Albert, and he was at his bowling club on the seafront. And it was quite surreal. A sunny afternoon in a club at the time that wouldn't permit women, by the way. So I think our producer was a woman. She wasn't very pleased about that. But we came out and we did it outside the club. And we talked, walked along the seafront a bit, and Albert Pierpoint said to me, it was a skill. It was a skill. Managing to hang somebody so it was painless and they didn't feel anything, he said, was a skill. And I won't go through now the sorts of things that he told me, but it was all about getting the right weight on the end of the rope and various other things. And he also said, not one person he had hung went to the gallows crying and screaming and shouting. He said once people knew that was it was a fait accompli, and they were usually fairly quiet and said very little. He said it was quite surreal. People weren't screaming and shouting or begging for mercy or anything like that. People, once they got there and into the room, were very, very quiet. And he said to me he didn't think it really worked, and he was glad that there wasn't a need for it anymore. He said, because I am still on the books at this time. If they brought it back, I would be the person they would come to until somebody new was trained up. I think it's, I have to say, I think it's reasonably barbaric. These two Australians, I don't know about all the other people, but the two Australians are supposed to have been rehabilitated. One had become quite a talented artist, and the other had become a pastor working within the prison. And they had already been in prison for over a decade. And it seemed fairly brutal to actually then execute these two people. And I can't believe, and I've spoken to a number of people this week who vehemently believe that the death penalty should be reinstated and people should be executed. But, you know, if one guy said to me, James, if it was your son, if your son was killed, you want to hang them? You'd want to kill them? Well, probably I would, and most people would. But actually, if you did it in the height of anger, that might be one thing. But I'll bet very few people in the cold light of day, after there'd been a trial, after there'd been various other things, you know, would it make you feel better? Somebody taken the life of a loved one of yours, would it actually make you feel better to do the same? To actually kill somebody else's child? Because everybody is somebody's child. Would it make you feel better? And I'm just not convinced it would. Would it deter other people from behaving in that way? I am not sure that it would. But I asked the question. Robert said, should we bring back capital punishment? Absolutely not, James. Capital punishment has absolutely no effect on crime. The greater punishment would be to imprison the worst of the worst for the rest of their lives. Furthermore, how can a society call itself civilized in the 21st century if it sanctions premeditated murder? On the other hand, Del Ansel says, bring it back, James. DNA doesn't lie. Graham says, rapists, killers, paedophiles, terrorists, and anyone who threatens the great land of ours. DNA evidence is that advanced now. If the proof is there, hang them high. The problem is, Graham, most of the people you mentioned don't care about what happens to them. Do you think somebody goes out and kills somebody or commits a terrorist act, but before they go and do it, think, oh, I hope I don't get caught because I might get hung or I might get shot or I might get electrocuted? I don't believe they do. Marion Schultz says, capital punishment is an easy way out. Life should mean life, and the prison's harder than they are now. Linda says, it's a known fact. Once you get rid of the death penalty, crime rises. Well, actually, Linda, it isn't a known fact, and it isn't the case. You go to America, and in states where the death penalty still exists, you find crime is as high, if not higher, than in states where it doesn't. Mark O'Neill says, yes, if they can be proved beyond any doubt, they did it. So it's kind of split as to whether or not you think we should bring back the death penalty. I'd be interested to hear your thoughts, of course. Continue your thoughts. You can always tweet me at the James Whale. You can go on our Facebook page, or you can send me an email at jameswhaleradio@gmail.com. It is gmail.com, isn't it?
It is, yes.
You got any thoughts?
I think hanging's the easy option. I think you should go in a little room somewhere and think about what you've done for the rest of your life. I think that's the answer.
Yeah. I think you're probably right. Now, we've nearly finished, I think, haven't we?
Yeah, we've nearly finished. Should we do some questions?
I think we should. And then, do you want to see my boots? I keep saying, do you want to see my shoes? You see them on Twitter, from the Keswick Boot Company. They're very nice, aren't they? Very nice. Right, okay. Questions. I'm ready. Hit me with your rhythm stick. Hit me.
Rob Murphy, would Boris Johnson be a good Prime Minister? I don't think we should do that one. Last time you mentioned something about Boris Johnson, I'm sure something bad happened.
Yeah, I think probably until after the election we should leave that out.
But then again, he's not running for Prime Minister.
No.
Okay. Tracy Packer, there we go.
You have got to learn to read.
That is very true.
Yeah.
Why is the much-needed aid taking so long to get to Nepal? If the TV crews can get there, why can't the aid?
Well, simple, really. There's kind of a bottleneck. The TV crews travel light. Aid needs trucks and helicopters and all sorts of stuff that they're getting there. I think the real reason is that there's so much aid heading into Nepal that they're finding it difficult to get it out. And the roads were pretty bad anyway. In many cases, people live kind of up in mountains and hill villages. It's just a very difficult place to get to. I'm sure they're trying to get it there as quickly as they can.
Andy Swan. If they were to make a movie of your life, James Whale, which actor would you like to play you?
Well, obviously the best looking one you could find. I suppose. Who could play who? Well, I don't know. Who could play me?
Ross Kemp.
Oh, I know. Ross Kemp could play me, or Luke Goss.
Yeah,
he's a friend of mine, and you know, if you look in my autobiography, you can see a picture of him and I in Prague when he was filming Blade 2. And it is remarkable how similar he and I looked while we were in Prague. And I think actually when I talk about it, he will probably be very good playing me.
We just need to pitch it to a film studio, really.
Well, yeah, possibly. I was trying to find a picture and find which page it's on, but slightly difficult, really. It's such a big book with so many words in it. It's a little difficult, but it's definitely in. It's definitely in the book because I had a very. Hang on. Oh, here we are. It's on page. Oh, it hasn't got any numbers on the pages with the pictures, which is a little bit annoying, isn't it? But it's on page 160
ish.
Actually, it's page 159.
Ish.
On holiday in Prague with Luke Goss, Luke's wife, Mrs. W, and various other people. And there's me and Luke standing together with sunglasses on. It's uncanny how we could have been twins. Yeah, and Mrs. W's got a glass in her hand. That doesn't surprise me. Next question.
Okay, Karen Bowman. Why do shop/petrol stations no longer offer receipts for items purchased? I always have to ask for my receipts. Are these people trying to save on paper rolls in the machine?
You know, Karen, it's always nice to have you on the show. You are a regular, and it's always good to have you here. But when you go into a petrol station, they give you a receipt straight away, don't they? They always give me one anyway.
Yeah, and you always say, no, it's all right, and you leave it with them.
Well, if you're buying fuel, you want it, don't you?
Yeah, for your VAT records, I suppose.
Yeah, and all that stuff, yes. Yeah. And, you know, prove where your money's gone at the end of the year.
Seamus Horton. I think I've got that right.
Seamus. Oh, you are illiterate. Go on.
SEA is C. MUS is must.
Ask me the flipping question.
Okay, why do women keep forgetting the directions to a place where they've been many times before, yet never forget to... I can't read. Yet never forget one throwaway comment.
Hang on, let me have a look at your script. Hold on, let me have a... Goodness sake, this is like, I don't know. Let me just have a look at this. Here we go. Right. Why do women keep forgetting the directions to a place where they have been many times recently, yet never forget one throwaway comment a man made 10 years ago? Do you know, I am so glad that Mrs. W is not the only one. If I've heard it once, I've heard it 1,000 times. Don't you ever listen to what I say? Yes, I just didn't hear. Don't you ever listen? I bet you listen to everybody else you talk to, but you never listen to me. How many bells does that ring? I would say to you all, my friends, that's just life.
Can I do the next question, since I completely messed up?
I don't know. Can you do the next question? Here, hang on. Let me give you the script back. Right, go on.
I'm going to get this wrong. Rameses, is that right? Have I done that wrong? Rames? Why do people on Facebook have such weird names?
Why do you know, if somebody writes a name that you don't know, you missed out Gary Elms. He says, is anyone looking forward to the Rugby World Cup later this year? No, not much. Right, on to Ram.
Ram.
Talk about... What?
Ram, can I?
Well, go on then. Go on, you do it.
All right. Can we talk about the weather?
Well, actually, did you see on Periscope last Sunday? I was at Sky doing the paper review on Sunrise in the morning, and I did a little Periscope with Naz doing the weather.
I saw the Periscope. I didn't see the Sky thing because I was in bed snoring.
Oh, right. Okay. I won't bother to do it again then, if you can't be bothered to get up and watch. Talk about the weather. Today, it's cold, blue sky, little white fluffy clouds. Temperatures tonight, when we're recording this program, I'm told tonight are going to go down to a low of 2 Celsius, and that could produce a little ground frost in the morning. The outlook for the bank holiday weekend is fairly wet and a little bit of wind. But next week we get into May and the weather should be better.
I'm just thinking I'm going to get loads of emails from Seamus. Seamus! There you go. Definitely going to get emails now.
Is that it?
Yes, we haven't had anything from Mr. Longbottom for a while.
No, and we didn't do any mentions for people this week, but we will. And if you want to get in touch, by the way, don't forget jameswhaleradio@gmail.com. In the meantime, enjoy the next week and join us next time.
We could quickly mention Tony Fisher.
We could. On the other hand, he hasn't paid for his mentions lately, has he?
That's true, and you've only said 3 iPhones, so you're not going to win this week an iPhone.
Oh, God. I forgot about it again. Oh, dear, oh, dear. Well, never mind. Check out our shop, jameswhaleradio.co.uk. Go and have a look in the shop. Get yourself a nice James Whale T-shirt for summer and maybe a nice James Whale baseball cap as well.
Can we go now?
Yeah, let's go. Let's get out of here.
You're listening to the James Whale Radio Show. For more information, visit www.jameswhaleradio.co.uk. Why not check us out on facebook.com/James Whale Radio Show or follow James on Twitter @the James Whale. James Whale, the voice of reason.